Rest in peace, Myra Craft. Patriots! This one's for you.
Welcome to Patriots Central Radio with Jeremy Dawson and Steve Balestriei.
New England, what up?
International show report.
Yeah, we on the road.
Welcome to the show, everybody. You're here on Patriots Central. I'm your host, Jeremy Dawson, and with me, as always, Steve Balestriei. Today we have a great show, a lot of big news, especially considering that there's not even any football going on. Our featured guest is going to be Christopher Price from WEEI, and we definitely have some big news to get into. But first, let's welcome our co-host, Steve. How are you?
All right, Jeremy. How's it going? It's been a pretty hectic week, I would imagine, for everyone involved with the Patriots, and the news just never seems to stop.
Definitely. I mean, I just wish it was some good news, you know? It's been a tough week in New England.
Yeah, this Hernandez story, it's never ending. I know that there's ongoing stuff going on in his house, and it's just a really dark week for the team this week, and there's a lot to talk about it, so what do you say we jump right in?
Let's get into it. All right, well, of course, I'm sure everybody listening to the show knows the news. I'm sure everybody in the United States knows the news. Aaron Hernandez is linked to a case involving a murder of, I believe it's his girlfriend's sister's boyfriend?
Yes,
Odin Lloyd. Right, Odin Lloyd. His body was found about a mile from Hernandez's home. And, I mean, at first when we heard about it, it was just like, all right, there was a body found near Hernandez's home. So I thought it was just kind of like a routine asking people around when they said Hernandez was questioned. I didn't know that there was any links to him yet. But as this has opened up more and more, it's just getting worse and worse for Hernandez.
It is, and, there's surveillance footage supposedly of him from one of his neighbors, leaving his house at 3 a.m. with a couple of other guys that are dressed in hoods, and then he destroyed his cell phone and his own surveillance equipment that's part of his own home. It just doesn't look good, and, the police right now are back across the street from his home, or beside his home, I guess, and they're searching a little creek or a stream with guys in wetsuits, and they've been going over that area a couple of times, and they're back there today. It's just, the longer it goes on, the worse it seems to get for him.
Right. I mean, I did hear that about today. I know that they're in the water with metal detectors and stuff, so I'm assuming looking for a weapon of some sort. If they come out with anything, it's just gonna escalate even more. I understand that they went to his home the other day and they brought in a K-9 unit and stuff, left with multiple bags. What was in the bags, we don't know. It could have been nothing. It could have been hard evidence. I mean, just the fact that they even left with anything is, it's not looking good. And, man, I'm interested to hear the alibi because he was with him. I mean, the last person that we know that was with him was Hernandez and his buddies. And then they come home without him. We find out he's murdered that night. And, and then just a bunch of stories about Hernandez's past coming up. I mean, it just sounds like this guy has managed to get away with a lot of trouble.
Exactly. And, we're looking at a bunch of different scenarios to how this could unfold. I mean, if he is involved in any way with this killing, he'll probably end up in jail for a very, very long time. But even if he wasn't involved with the actual death of this man, and he's still looking at possible considerable jail time, for destroying evidence, accessory before the fact, accessory after the fact, conspiracy. He's looking at a bunch of potential charges here. And, the bottom line is, I know a lot of people are really concerned about the football aspect of it, but at this point right now, and I know, that's what we're here for, is to talk about the football aspect, but
Right.
in reality, this kind of transcends football because, we're dealing with the death of a man, and his mother has lost a son, his sister has lost a brother. It's really a sad situation.
Right. I mean, of course, the situation needs to be addressed with the New England Patriots. What are they going to go on moving forward? We'll get to that, but really the main focus needs to be the fact that a man was killed. I mean, like, I've heard people saying that, like, oh, I hope Hernandez doesn't get charged with anything, but, like, don't hope he doesn't get charged with anything. Hope he isn't guilty, They'll just kind of hope they don't find enough evidence against him. A man died. Like, if he's guilty, he deserves the punishment that's going to come.
Exactly. And, at a minimum right now, we're looking at, he destroyed evidence from his own home. And, they could possibly charge him with obstruction of justice. And there was a nice article in Sports Illustrated from Michael McCann, who writes for SI, and he's the director of Sports and Entertainment Law Institute at UNH, at the University of New Hampshire School of Law. And he was talking about the different charges that he could be facing, not even taking into consideration if he's involved with the killing in any way. And each of these could conceivably put him in jail for a very long time. And, when you take into consideration how the Patriots invested in his future last year with that $40 million extension, it's a really sad situation. This guy had the world at his feet. He's only 23 years old, and his life could conceivably change very, very bad for the worse here, and he could see himself in jail for the rest of his life.
Definitely. And I know that the judicial system doesn't go. I mean, of course, it depends on who you get as, like, judges and jury and stuff, but they don't go light on athletes, which is seen with Michael Vick. I mean, he went away for quite some time, and that was the death of an animal. Still very sad, but I mean, the death of a person, that the punishment is much more severe. So this isn't looking good for him. And I mean, it's tough to see from a New England standpoint because, I mean, he was one of the best people on our offense, and, like, he was just a great player to watch. And it's just bad whenever you see an athlete get themselves into this kind of situation because, I mean, like you said, he had the world at his feet. I mean, it's really tough. Like, how do you just throw this away? I've been seeing a lot of people talk about that. Like you have all the money in the world and you still go out and just get yourself into the same trouble that you would have gotten in as I mean, not that people get themselves into this kind of trouble, but just, I don't even know.
Yeah, no one does. And, and it's sad because if you go back to that ceremony last year when he signed his extension, I mean, he was up there with his mother and he was in tears and he was talking about how he had turned his life around and, how the Patriots rewarded his character. And Robert Kraft was saying the exact same things. I mean, they had publicly gone out and invested in their future with this guy, and they praised his character. He had a rough upbringing. He had some issues, and those are well documented. But it seemed like he had turned everything around, and, they rewarded that. And it has to be a really rough time for the Krafts right now. I don't want to take away anything from the dead man's family by any means, but, the Krafts came out publicly and talked about this guy's character and how he had turned his life around and, he had beaten the odds, so to speak. And to see all that change in the blink of an eye, it has to be really difficult right now.
Definitely. I mean, all right. I mean, I guess we should get into the football side of it now. Let me just ask, let's just say he's found as an accessory and say he goes away for a couple of years. I assume he would face a suspension from the NFL as well. If he comes back I'm not sure exactly what the time would be, but let's just say he finds a way to come back in 3 years from now. What do you see the Patriots taking him back as a second chance? What would you see happening?
No, I don't. In fact, honestly, I think even if he was cleared of everything, I think he'd still face some kind of suspension from the NFL. We saw it with Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, Roethlisberger was accused of a couple of things, but ultimately he was never charged with a crime, and he was suspended for 6 games with an appeal that was put down to 4. But I think he's still looking at a lengthy suspension this year, even if it turns out he's cleared of everything after the fact. I think, honestly, he's probably played his last down for the New England Patriots. I just don't see them taking him back at this point. Do I think that his NFL career is over? Not necessarily. I mean, of course, if he was to go away for a very long prison sentence, yes.
Right.
But if he was to get a second chance either this year or later, I think that, I think there's no shortage of teams that might take a risk on him because of the fact that he is so talented. But I can't see the Patriots at this point taking him back. I see them, they're going to stand by him, although, they've distanced themselves from him during the process. I believe they'll stand by him during this, but as soon as it's over, I see them cutting their ties with him rather quickly.
Yes, I agree. The New England Patriots have been known to be a kind of no-nonsense team. If you get yourself into trouble, they don't really want any part of that. We've always tried to be a team that stays away from media and especially the negative publicity. We've always kind of tried to be one of the teams who showed the good side of Patriots, the athletes' lives. When we had Dawson on the other day, that was a great example. Ideal New England Patriot, is a great citizen, does a lot for the community. I agree. I don't think he's going to play another down for the New England Patriots, regardless if he's acquitted. And also, it's going to be tough for other teams to sign him too. If this is just a wrong place, wrong time kind of deal, I would see the teams going at him quickly, but it seems as this is unfolding, we've heard about 3 or 4 different instances where he's gotten in trouble, and it's all coming out now, and it might just be too much. You can only be at the wrong place at the wrong time so many times before it's something that you don't want to avoid.
Exactly. And, I found it interesting. Greg Bedard, who used to write for the Boston Globe and then now writes for Sports Illustrated, he was speaking last week about how it seemed like Hernandez at the time of his contract extension had turned the corner, but then after his extension was signed, he started distancing himself, not from the bad elements in his earlier life, but from his teammates. And he started hanging back with, a lot of the people that he grew up with, which to me was, it's a pretty telling statement there that, he was falling back into that. And, more and more is coming to light about the past year, and it's just such a waste. It's such a waste. And now, and like I said, I really think that the team is going to cut their ties with him. And he had everything laid out before him. He had financial stability for the rest of his life with this $40 million extension. He was due to be a focal point of this Patriot offense this year with all the new turnover and wide receivers and Gronkowski out injured. Everything was going to go through him this year. And he seems to have thrown it all away.
Definitely. I don't want to sit here and crucify the guy right now or anything because, there's still a lot to be learned about the case and everything. But it's just, there's too much suspicion with him. And, him destroying potential evidence, I assume that there is something that he knows. So even if maybe he wasn't there and he's just covering up for maybe his buddies or whatever, it shows that his priorities right now are in the wrong place, and it's tough.
It is, and even though I know we don't want to really get into the football aspect because of the situation it is, now we have to look at, okay, where are they going to go from here in terms of the position? I think we're both in agreement that I think they're going to cut their ties with them. But, you know, in terms of the position issue, where are they going to go? And what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I hate to put a silver lining on it, but, I mean, it's kind of a position that we've been a little bit about coming into the season before this news even broke, because Aaron Hernandez was dealing with a slight injury, and we know that Gronkowski may be out for the start of the regular season after having surgery. So we've kind of loaded the position a little bit with our backups. I mean, we got Jake Ballard, we got Zach Sudfeld, we got Humano Wana, however you want to say it. And, I mean, I'm hoping that these guys can go fill in the role. It's just going to be tough because Aaron Hernandez he was such a, he allowed us to play multiple tight ends because he could go play receiver. He was such a versatile tight end that, it's going to be tough to replace, but we definitely have viable options for our backup tight ends. And a lot of people are talking about it who's going to be the Patriots tight end? You need to remember, Gronk, he's not gone. He is coming back this season. Yes, he may miss some of the regular season, and he might not, though. He could be back week one. We're not positive yet. And he's going to be an amazing option still. So hopefully Jake Ballard can fill in well. I know that he's got the size to do it, for sure. And Zach Sudfeld, I understand he's been coming along nicely. So, I still have high hopes for the position. It's not something that I'm worried about. Honestly, I'm still more worried about the wide receivers and how they're going to pan out. And how do you see it?
Exactly. I think the health of Ballard, I know he's still not 100% all the way back from his knee injury, and he had microfracture surgery on that after the Super Bowl with the Giants against the Patriots. I think if he's completely healthy, I think they'll be in pretty decent shape, actually, because they do have Fells, they do have Human, and, this young kid, Sudfeld, who shined in the spring workouts. So they have some depth there. The one thing about Hernandez is he's not only a tight end, he's more of a wide receiver type as well. So he provides that big body. And if Ballard isn't 100%, even if he is, they still might dip into the free agents market and bring in a veteran. And then a guy I could see filling that role, he's a little bit older now, and he's not quite the receiver he used to be, would be Dallas Clark. And he's a lot like Hernandez. He's a tight end, but he can slide outside. He can play wide receiver. I could see them possibly doing that with him. But I think if Ballard is healthy and he's ready to go when the season starts, they're not in terrible shape. Now, that being said, are any of the guys they have as prolific as a receiver as Gronkowski and Hernandez? No, they're not. But I think they can still be productive. And, they're not in terrible shape at the tight end position. Gronkowski will be back at some point this year. I'm pretty sure of that. So then we just have to see how it goes.
Right. It's going to be interesting. I hope the best for Hernandez. I really hope that he's not as guilty as he's making himself look. But, I think the Patriots will be okay when we do cut ties with them because, again, we're pretty safe in the position right now.
I think so, and we'll just have to see how it all plays out once training camp starts, and we'll see where the legal process takes us with Hernandez and how that all unfolds eventually.
Definitely. All right, guys, we'll be right back. That's all of our Hernandez talk for now, and we'll come back with our guest, Chris Price.
Are you looking for an NFL website that doesn't throw rumors against the wall and hope they stick? Then please go to ProFootballCentral.com for up-to-date news and information. ProFootballCentral.com is back and better than ever. We're dedicated to being your #1 NFL fan site, so come check us out at ProFootballCentral.com and experience the difference.
And welcome back to Patriots Central. We now have a very special guest on the line. We have Chris Price from EEI. Chris has been covering the Boston sports teams for probably 10 to 12 years. And if you're a Patriots fan, you've probably seen him on ESPN, SI, as well as the Boston Globe, Washington Post, Miami Herald, and I know I'm leaving out a bunch. He's also an author of the New England Patriots Complete Illustrated History. He also has authored a couple of other books. He has a new one coming out with Troy Brown, but I don't want to waste time because I know his time is valuable. Chris, welcome to Patriots Central.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, I know we had originally talked about, getting together and talking about OTAs and who's on the hot seat and all this, but we all know that right now the news is being dominated by Aaron Hernandez. So you want to give us, I know you're probably tired of talking about this, but you want to give us your 2 cents on this, about what's going on, how you see this unfolding right now?
Well, I will say this. The heart of it is it's a sad story all around. And I know you guys know all the details, so I won't kind of get into the details and the kind of the particulars of the event, but it's. I think the important thing for us to remember is that at the heart of it, there's a dead young man, and I think we need to make that the focus. I think if you want, you have to understand the gravity of the situation. At the same time, you have to understand that the Patriots are going to be without Aaron Hernandez for an extended period of time. I always go back to and I've quoted this ad nauseum over the last couple of days, but you want to talk about the Ben Roethlisberger case, where Roethlisberger was embroiled in that sexual assault incident, and he was cleared of all charges, but he still ended up getting 6 games, later reduced to 4 on appeal. I think that given the nature of this crime and given what happened, even if Hernandez is completely exonerated of everything, top to bottom, because his record is completely wiped clean, I have to think that he is going to be sidelined for an extended period. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Patriots do going forward without, let's assume, Gronkowski, and we know Gronkowski is going to be on the shelf for an extended stretch, in Hernandez. And so what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to that group going forward? So there are a lot of different things in play. There's a lot of different things that really stick out to me. But again, at the heart of it, we have to remember the gravity of the situation and what happened is kind of more the passing of this young man for his family.
It is. It's very sad. And, it kind of transcends football at this point because, you're dealing with the death of a young man. It's not it's not a DUI. It's not a Gronk dancing without a shirt in Las Vegas. We're talking about somebody losing a son here. And that's the really sad part about it. And it seemed like, that Hernandez had turned the corner. The Patriots made a big investment in him last season, and now, they were praising his Robert Kraft. We got up and praised his character. And it seemed like a lot of that is now, right or wrong, it's gone. It's like now he's basically an outcast from the organization.
That's a great point, and it's important to remember, too, and I've written about this over the last couple of days, and I just went back and found a piece that I wrote about Hernandez not soon after he was drafted. He had a really, and I'm not saying that these are reasons for what happened, but he had a really challenging time growing up. I mean, he lost his dad when he was a teenager, and he kind of, by his own admission, he got off the track, and he started doing things that he shouldn't do. And his brother DJ was a tremendously calming influence in his life in terms of setting him straight, in terms of putting him in the right direction, in terms of do the right thing on a constant basis. His brother DJ is now a football coach out of Iowa, and is not in his life on a daily basis. And I wonder how much that has affected him over the last couple of years. It's also important to remember that Aaron Hernandez entered the league at a very early age, at the age of 20, and got a lot of fame, a lot of notoriety, a lot of money at a very early age. And it's, we all don't do a great job handling things like that at that age, when we're given such an embarrassment of riches. He has probably made some really poor decisions. At least this is my experience. This is no one else's experience. But talking to him and talking to his high school coaches and, people who've been around him, it seems to me that he has made some poor decisions about who he hangs around with over the last 5 to 7 years. And it's just, again, I go back to the thing, it's a sad story. It's not only a sad story for Owen Lloyd, it's not only a sad story for the Lloyd family, but it's a sad story for him that he, like you said, I mean, you looked at him about a year or so ago about his contract and about how he was a changed guy. He wanted to validate the faith and the trust that the Kraft family put in him by giving him this big contract. It is hard to reconcile that image of him as an emotional young man talking about the gift that he had been given to the present day image of him, under suspicion in this murder case. It's just an interesting dynamic between the two, and just how he's gone from where he's been at the age of 13, 14, 15 to where he is now. It's a really interesting journey.
Yeah, I'm going to pass you right over to Jeremy. I know he had a couple of quick questions for you, Chris.
Right. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Big fan of your writing. Just wanted to, get away from Hernandez for a second, and I hate to stay on the negative side of things, but I understand that you wrote a piece about being pessimistic about the New England Patriots, Super Bowl chances this upcoming season. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on that and what the New England Patriots problems are.
Sure. I wrote a piece, actually, that's up on the website at WEI.com now, where I wanted to look at it from both sides, and I said, okay, here are 5 reasons to be optimistic about the Patriots' Super Bowl chances in 2013, and 5 reasons to be pessimistic about the Patriots' Super Bowl chances in 2013. And not pessimism, I want to make this clear, it's not pessimism in the sense that, 5-11, they're going to miss out on the playoffs and everything is going to go, go horribly wrong. I think the pessimism entered for me when you're talking about the turnover at the anticipated turnover at the tight end spot and the turnover at the wide receiver position. It's just hard getting used to new guys. It's just, Brady, time and again, he's one of the only guys in league history who is, I think he's thrown more than 250 passes to 4 different guys, which is an astounding number when you consider some of his contemporaries like Breeze and Manning. But it's just tough to get up to speed with the same. It's difficult. We saw it in 2006. I think is a great example of taking time to kind of learn how to play alongside each other. I think offensively, and the other thing too that stands out for me is a lot of the other AFC East teams, the elites, I'll say that, got better. You look at a team like Denver, adding Welker. You look at a team like Houston. I think they moved very well in the offseason, adding a smart, savvy veteran like Ed Reed. I don't know how much he's going to be able to bring to the field, but all of this stuff, I think, means that while the Patriots, kind of stood in the same place or maybe regressed in a couple spots, some of their contemporaries kind of moved forward. I'll say this too: at the end of the day, there's still 5 good reasons to be optimistic about the Patriots' Super Bowl chances. They still have Brady, they still have Balestriei, they still play in the AFC East. They have a terrific, wildly underrated running game. And I think the other thing to remember too is all of this off-season drama, almost all of this off-season drama, has really focused on the offensive side of the ball. This defense played very well at the end of the year last year. They have everyone coming back. I want to see Akeem to lead for the full year in the system. I think all of that should give Patriots fans reasons for optimism going forward. So I tried to kind of balance the two out and say, look, here's some reasons optimistic, here's some reasons to be pessimistic. So there we go.
All right, definitely understandable. Sorry that I messed up there. I wasn't aware of the optimism side of it. So definitely good that you see that Patriots have just as good of a chance to make it as they do to not. My other question, I was wondering about. I also read something on you about Tim Tebow, and I understand when he first arrived, of course, he was flooded with media all around, and kind of seemed like Tebow mania was kind of hitting New England with full force that first day that media came down and was looking for him. But it was really impressive how the Patriots didn't really give him much. And Bill Belichick, he was really going at the media, kind of like you asked me enough questions about him. Let's move forward. And I understand that you wrote a piece kind of saying that he's kind of like sold into just he's another Patriot. I would like you to elaborate on that one.
Well, I couldn't the last part of your question. He was like what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Like he kind of gelled into just he's like another Patriot now. Like he's not.
Yeah.
It's not
yeah.
Tim Tebow.
Yeah, it's not. It was interesting to see him interact and work during minicamp because there was it was low key. It was almost, there was some air taken out of the balloon in that when he was out there, he was just another guy. He was working with the team. He was taking the reps that a third string quarterback would take. And first of all, I think it was interesting that he just worked at quarterback. We talked about him, spending some time at fullback and, H-back and tight end. He was just working at quarterback. And he got the reps that a normal third string quarterback would take. He wasn't, he didn't get a chance to jump ahead of Mallett. In the way they doled out the reps, it was Brady, it was Mallett, and then, Tebow got everything that was left after that. He got the majority of his time during minicamp playing quarterback, working in what they call the opportunity session, which is a session held after the majority of practice, and it's where guys get a chance to maybe try some different things and do some different things, and some backups and some third stringers kind of get a chance to see some, quote unquote game action. He was involved in that. So I'm just fascinated. Talk a little bit more about Tebow. I'm just fascinated. I think that Belichick, and I've said this before, I think Belichick respects his ability as a football player. I don't know what he thinks about him as a quarterback, but frankly, you don't win the Heisman Trophy by accident. He's a guy who can run with a football. He can take some punishments. He can do a few things on the field. I think Belichick is intrigued by that. When you look at his track record, he's brought in guys like Julian Edelman and Matthew Slater, guys who really don't have a position at the professional level, and he's allowed them to find a spot. And I think that it might be what we're seeing here with Tebow, where he brings him in, he kind of tries him out in a couple of different spots, and he finds what works best. I happen to think that there are two distinct options here with Tebow when you're looking at Tebow and what to do with him here in New England. You could either have him be your third quarterback and be your backup and take 16 inactives and work all offseason on mechanics and try and build him into an NFL game-ready quarterback, or you can make him, you can kind of sprinkle him throughout the lineup. And what I mean by that is that you can have him be the punt protector, and you can have him take 5 or 10 snaps over the course of the year, over the course of the game at halfback, at fullback, at tight end, kind of mix him up a little bit. So I'm just fascinated to see how all of that is going to manifest itself, how he's going to play, where he's going to play, what he's going to do, and how he's going to do it over the course of the season, if he even makes the team.
Right. I mean, that's definitely some good insight. Just wanted to see, do you have any final questions for him?
Yes, we're still talking with Chris Price here from WEEI here on Patriots Central. And Chris, getting back to the tight end position, I know that, even though Gronkowski and Hernandez will probably miss a significant amount of time, at least early in the season, they still have some capable backups. They have Jake Ballard there. But you wrote an interesting piece the other day about possibly bringing in a guy like Dallas Clark, who has a lot of the same qualities that a guy like Hernandez does, because he can slide outside, he can play wide receiver. Do you see this as a possible landing spot for Clark?
Yeah, Steve, that's a great question, and it's funny. I can't even believe that we're talking about the idea of the Patriots adding another tight end. But you can look at a guy like Clark, and you have to remember the Patriots were intrigued enough by Clark that they kicked the tires on him before the start of last season. He came into Foxborough for a workout, and he just wasn't a fit at that time. And I think the Patriots, I don't remember the timeline of that, either if it was before or after they added Fells. But look, I mean, Clark is available, and if you're not happy with where Ballard is, if you're not happy with Fells and Hooman and some of the younger guys out of Ford or Sudfeld, he's an option, and I think he's a well-regarded option. I think he's a guy who, in the past, shown ability. I mean, he caught, I have to go back and look this up, but I mean, he caught 30-something passes, with Tampa Bay. I just wonder how much he's got left in the tank. I just wonder if, we're getting into a situation where if he comes in here and you're expecting one thing and you get another. I think if he does come in here, I think you have to put a reasonable level of expectation on him. I don't think that this is going to be Dallas Clark catching 65 passes from Tom Brady, but I think that if you're looking for someone to give you a little bit of depth and to get you over, not a long-term solution, but someone to get you over at that spot for don't know, 2, 3, 4 months, I think Clark could be a very good fit here. I think a guy like David Thomas, Daniel Graham is still out there. So there are options. There's some options. There's some veteran options on the free agent market who would be intriguing additions at tight end for New England.
Well, Chris, we thank you very much. We know your time is short, and this is always a busy time of year for everyone in regards to families and whatnot. So we really appreciate the time coming on today, and we'll always enjoy listening to your insight in regards to the Patriots.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. It's my pleasure, guys. Take care, and I look forward to coming on with you guys again very, very soon.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Patriots Central. Thank you for listening to our guest, Chris Price. This is going to wrap up the show now. And any final words from my co-host, Steve?
It was a great show, Jeremy, and I always appreciate Chris's time. He's one of the best beat writers that the Patriots have, and he always has some great insight for us. And, we'll be here. If anyone out there, any of our listeners have a question they'd like to send it in to us, you can reach us at Twitter at Patriots Central, and we'll be happy to read your questions on the air, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability.
All right, and just actually, just one final question for you, Steve. You kept that Skywire last night?
No, I did not. Unfortunately, I missed that.
That was wild. Oh, man. I feel like that needed to be addressed. That was one of the craziest things I may have ever seen. I think I was panicking more than the guy that was standing above the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I was following some of the Twitter traffic on that after the fact, and it seemed like that was quite the show, but I'm sorry I missed that.
All right, guys. Well, from Patriots Central, make sure everybody follows us on Twitter and follow the Pro Football Central. Thank you again. I'm Jeremy. That's Steve Balestriei, and we'll catch you guys later.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.